What's going on, good people? It is the Bad Wolf, and I want to thank you for checking in with me in Badwolf Unincorporated. Welcome one, welcome all. Now, if you're watching this video, you obviously must be a national and a state citizen, and you enjoy living, operating, and working in the private. This is not, nor are any of my videos for the average U.S. citizen. That is for the member of the public and so administrated. This is for people who want to be and are sovereigns, who know who they are and how they want to proceed. And if not, well, we can teach you how to become that because if you are, in fact, a citizen, you also have a private side known as being a national or a state citizen. These terms have standing within the law. In other words, they've been codified, they're real, and they are recognized by the government. You will find that some other agencies, municipalities, and law enforcement do not like these things. And why? Why would they not? Well, it's because of the fact that when you're operating in your correct capacity, you're standing as a national slash state citizen, you are their boss. And as long as you're doing no harm or evil or criminal activity, there's nothing they can say or do to you. And they don't like that. That's the short answer of that. But the funny thing is them and the trolls who like to watch my videos, they in fact also have a private national side and standing. They have it too. But when they're in their jobs, they don't want to acknowledge it. Most of them don't know about it. And definitely at their jobs, it's hidden. As a matter of fact, for police, in their books, were referred to as foreign nationals. What cops don't seem to overstand, is that when they're talking about foreign nationals, it doesn't mean you have to be born somewhere across the ocean. Foreign national, foreign just means not recorded, registered, or within our database and registered within, because they don't know that they themselves have a private side. Where it gets a little confusing is because all of their names, just like ours, are generally have been given to them, registered to the system. So it seems like there is no such thing as this national. National means a living being in their private capacity. And that is usually classified by saying if you were born in California, you're a Californian. Well, the term Californian, Floridian, New Yorker, Wisconsinite, Illinoisan, Arkansan, Texan, under GPO Style Manual, Section 5.23, regards us as the natives of the states. That's the organic. We are all Native Americans. We have both of these, a U.S. citizen side and a national side. Now, if you're watching this video, and this is your first time here learning any of this, I would highly suggest you go to my playlist and look up the 1.0 Getting Started videos. Once you find those videos in that playlist, watch the whole thing straight through so you know who you are, what's going on, and that's the only way you can move. But what we teach here is not that we're trying to be against or fight the system. That's not it. But there are some people out there who that's their jam, baby. But not here. We want to work with them. We are actually their superiors, not being cocky, but we are. We the people control all of this. We are the trustors and the beneficiaries. All right. We created it, we can change it, and we receive from it. They are the trustees. This is where the term public trustee or public officer comes from. The public is nothing more than a PMA, a private members association that is designed for their members who administer the public. But by law, because we are given the ability to regard ourselves as such, we can move into the public from the private. And as long as they have our name in their system, and they pretty much will forever, that name is then tainted and will always be regarded as a member of theirs. Though you have the right to declare that you are not in any one moment, but their system is going to hold your name and they're going to try to fight you. So unless you know how to operate, they're going to use that. So what is the best way to get around that? Not so much that you're trying to hide from the system, but you have the right to be private. So if they're going to take, excuse me, if you're going to give them your name and they're going to take it, recite it to them, create you as a member, and you can never what go be private again? No. You either create a private name or you create a private entity and then you operate that as if it's yourself because your name in all capitalized letters is nothing but a business trust, essentially. It's a transmitting utility. It's a vehicle that you use while you're a member. Kind of like in the hood or in the ghetto where you have a street name. Well, they don't use the word street name. They just call it a public or legal name. That's what that is. Now, let's get into your regularly scheduled program. So, for those people who are watching, obviously you are brilliant, you are wonderful, and I wish you nothing but positive energy and light. Unless you're one of the trolls who don't like me, an ex-girlfriend or ex-boyfriend of my girlfriend, you can kiss the crack of my ass. All right, just had to throw that out there. And if you're an agent or whatever else, that same crack can also be kissed by you. So just go ahead and get in the booty position and be like, and then I'll cue the Diddy music. And you can just kiss. Anyway, all right. So with that being stated, okay, because we are here as patriots, we are party to the Constitution, the Declaration of Independence, and the Bill of Rights. And if that's not what you're about, then you are a traitor. I don't care if you're black, white, gay, straight, uh, left, right, red, blue, liberals, whatever you are, if you're against people having freedom and rights, who deserve them, who've earned them, who were born with them, and the American way, you, sir, madam, he, she, it, them, way, they, whatever, hell, are a traitor. There, I said it, had to be said. Some people aren't afraid to say these things. And if you're any agency or law enforcement, the same thing applies. You're a traitor to the United States of America and you're working for the other team and you're doing damage to the American system. Got it? Cool. Now, to continue. Once again, if you read the title, you're interested in being tax exempt. Now, I already have some videos on how to be tax exempt at your job. However, what you guys have to understand, overstand by the time you're done here, is that receiving money as a national is tax exempt. Receiving money as a 14th Amendment U.S. citizen is taxable. As a national, they convince you to regard yourself as a 14th Amendment U.S. citizen. You then enter into contracts. So you cannot just quit paying taxes anywhere and everywhere you want because you heard this. You have to ensure that you know how to fill out the proper forms to change the contract or update the agreement. Okay. So when you receive monies that are taxable, it's called income. That's their word. If they can apply a tax to what compensation you're receiving, and that event is deemed taxable by what has occurred within that event, then in fact it is taxable. Yes, I know. That's basically how they talk. So that's receiving. What about buying things? People have reached out to me and they say, well, I would like to be taxable if I buy this, that, and the other. Okay, well, it's really quite simple. If you want to be taxable, they will argue because your name, just use mine, James Lovett, my mom well, I can't even blame her. No, no. Actually, it was probably more so me. When I applied for the driver's license, when I applied for a bank account, when I applied for the job, everything on there, I screamed and said, I scream, you scream, we scream. Mostly it's you screaming. We all scream for ice cream. And when I said, yes, I'm a U.S. citizen, because I didn't know any better, well, the system said, okay, you're saying you are because you have the legal right to under 8 U.S.C. 1401. You are given both, and these are two separate things, then cool. We will regard you in our system as a 14th Amendment U.S. citizen, as a taxpayer, a member of ours. Welcome to the public. I recited. I proved residence. Now in this game, they want to tell you here's how the rules are done. And you have to abide by them, or they punish you with physical abuse, mental, financial, lockup, threats, coercion, duress, etc. All the good stuff. So, receiving money, there are rules. Buying things, there are rules. So we're going to focus in on that you're going to be using your national side as a state citizen. These are the correct legal terms. And that you want to buy things exempt, but your name is tainted because you have utilized your legal right to be regarded. Your name is tainted. What you'll have to do is create a taxable entity. So for those tax exempt, excuse me. So for those people out there who already have a 508, 501, unincorporated association, anything done and created via the IRS with your information, you so designed and set up the structure to be regarded as tax exempt. But here's the thing, other people can do that as well. Any one of you guys can watching this. A lot of people think that because you create, let's say, like a 508c1a, a church, right? Out of their tax system, out of their control, that and don't get me wrong, a 501c3 also works. When you create that entity or you have one of them already, it is already what you need. But any of those you can make. Now, from there, what do you do? I'm glad you asked. Let's take a look. So here we're at the New York State Department of Taxation and Finance. Each state may call this department that handles their taxing structures a little bit of something different. I know in Wisconsin, it's the Department of Revenue and whatever else, right? So, what you'll have to do now, this is for people who want to be able to buy things tax exempt, which means you want to make purchases with no tax everywhere within that state. In order to do that, you have to realize a couple of things. 99% of the businesses in that geographical area are registered, which means to be taken from the private and brought into the public under the state itself. Because those businesses said they want to do business in the public for everybody, anybody. We want to be regulated. We want to be found official. So they did. Is that the only way to do business? No. So if you want to be able to buy things, you have to then go to the state, even as a private national, private citizen, national of the United States. Now, you could apply directly as you and under that, but they will probably dismiss it because here's the thing. Your name in their system is registered. So if you put James Lovett wants to be looked at as tax exempt, they're going to say, well, James Lovett in our system is a registered taxpayer. So here's where you creating your 501c3, your 508c1a, your unincorporated entity, etc. And I have other videos on how to create those things. You can also go to Black Site 32 to get the paperwork to set those things up. And then what you're going to do from there is you're going to type in the name of your state, and you're going to put in there, like here, you're going to put in New York, Department of Taxation, Finance, or Department of Revenue, Department of Taxing, New York, until you find their tax page. Once you find their tax page, you're going to look up exemption certificates for sales tax. So you don't have to pay the sales tax. So I'm going to let the AI read on New York, and you're going to do the equivalent for yours. Understand this. Every department, they have exemptions for individuals, businesses, property, all of that. I'm only showing you guys the stuff that I've done that I need to get certain things done. But understand that if a wealthy individual out there and his team can find out that the state can give him as an individual tax exemptions or his business exemptions or exemptions over his property, you can do them too. But you may have to create the entity, or maybe your name, depending on your background and this, that, and the other, may qualify. Your business as is may qualify. Your property as is may qualify. How could your property qualify? Well, see, when you pay tax on your property, it's because you registered it to them and you told them you want this to be considered property of the city and the state. But the only property that really should be registered to them, and there's a difference between recording who owns the property and registering the property. Those are two separate things. They generally kind of combine them and slide them past you to kind of fool you into it. Those are two separate things. Who owns the property, and then who actually is going to be administrating the property. I mean, you're the one who bought it. Your name's on it. Did the city or the state or any of them actually give you any money? No. So then why are you registering it? They should only know who owns it. But you registered it to them. You told them you want them to tax this property. You want to be a member of them. You want your property, which should be private, to be construed as a public location. So they say, okay, well, if it's our property, we tax. We're going to tax you because the government says, hey, we can tax underneath ourselves. So they're generating money off of you on your property. And then your name is registered to them. So then you go out and buy things with your name at the stores. So they kind of look at that as taxable. But really, the stores are the problem because the stores themselves are supposed to pay the tax, not you as a national. So they pass that fee on to you guys because you guys don't know what's going on. All right, so we're going to read this. It's a little bit of an older bulletin, but we're going to listen to what you get in New York. You can do this for your own state and how to do it.
Normally be subject to sales tax. The
Okay, did you hear that? If not, here, let me back it up.
purchaser sales tax exemption certificates enable a purchaser to make tax-free purchases that would normally be subject to sales tax.
They're always going to speak in this kind of way, and they have to be specific, and they don't always get it right. But they're saying a sales tax exemption certificate, which every state that charges taxes on purchases, they have to have an exemption certificate because not everybody is subject to paying tax. Actually, a majority of people should not be paying taxes on damn near anything. But if everybody stopped paying taxes the proper way, well, their belts will have to tighten and they'll lose their minds. Well, if you guys don't pay as much money in taxes, well, the roads aren't going to be as good. I don't know about you, but my roads are always shitty. We'll have less people to do cleanups and stuff. Okay, well then maybe some of the people, pay regular people to do some of these things then. They will always be chasing the money, guys. They will always have an excuse for taking your money. So let's keep going.
Tax. The purchaser fills out the certificate and gives it to the seller. The seller keeps the certificate and may then sell property or services to the purchaser without charging sales tax. This bulletin explains who may use exemption certificates, how to use them properly, and the various exemption certificates that are available. Sales tax exemption certificates may also be issued and accepted electronically. For more information on e-certificates, see TSB M07-1S, electronic resale and exemption documents for sales and compensating use taxes. When an exemption certificate is needed. A sales tax exemption certificate is needed in order to make tax-free purchases of items and services that are taxable. This includes most tangible personal property and some services. A purchaser must give the seller the properly completed certificate within 90 days of the time the sale is made, but preferably at the time of the sale. Example, you purchase cleaning supplies, which are taxable, from a distributor. However, if you intend to resell the cleaning supplies to your customers, that is, you are purchasing the supplies for your inventory, you may purchase the supplies without paying sales tax. Since the sale of cleaning supplies is normally subject to sales tax, the distributor needs some record to show why it didn't collect sales tax from you. Otherwise, the distributor could be held liable for the tax. Therefore, if you give a properly completed exemption certificate to the distributor, in this case, Form ST-120, resale certificate, within 90 days of your purchase, you are certifying that you intend to resell the items you purchased. If you intend to use the supplies yourself, you cannot use a resale exemption certificate, and the distributor must collect sales tax from you. Certain sales.
Now, why would they say that? It says if you intend to use the supplies yourself, you cannot use a resale exemption certificate because your name is tainted as a member of theirs. They don't want you as a member of theirs doing these things and utilizing it. So your entity must. All right, let's keep going.
Sales are always exempt from tax. This means a purchaser does not need an exemption certificate to make purchases of these items or services. For a list of items and services that may be purchased tax-free without an exemption certificate, see Publication 750, A Guide to Sales Tax in New York State.
So they're telling you right here, guys, that basically in each state, there's a publication of things that should not have taxes on them. Now, I could go through all of that in the whole video, all right, or make another video, but for New York and people here, that'd be great, but every state's going to be different. You have to do the homework yourself. Get the publication, read it, highlight it. If there's anything on there you're buying, you need to be telling them, no, this is tax exempt. I don't even need a certificate of exemption to buy this exempt. Because like they said up here, I don't remember where it was. Um, the distributor is really the one who's supposed to be paying the taxes. But I digress. So let's keep going.
State. Who may use exemption certificates? You may use an exemption certificate if, as a purchaser, you intend to resell the property or service. You intend to use the property or service for a purpose that is exempt from sales tax, or
There you go.
you make purchases as an agent or employee of tax-exempt nonprofit organizations or government entities.
This one also qualifies for you. Most people aren't going to be reselling the property or the service. You're either going to use the property or the service for the purpose of tax exemption, or you're going to be operating as the agent or employee of your 501c3, 508c1a, your irrevocable trust, your unincorporated association, your micronation, your government, your tribe, your nation, whatever it is. You're buying it on behalf of that. That makes it exempt.
Entities. In some cases, you must also have a valid certificate of authority to use an exemption certificate. See the chart at the end of this bulletin. Note that many exemption certificates are very specific about what type of purchaser may use the certificate. See the certificate's instructions for details. Most sellers must have a valid certificate of authority in order to accept an exemption certificate. A properly completed exemption certificate accepted in good faith protects the seller from liability for the sales tax not collected from the purchaser. Exemption certificates of other states or countries are not valid to claim exemption from New York State and local sales and use tax. How to use an exemption certificate. As a purchaser, you must use the correct exemption certificate and complete it properly before giving it to the seller. The exemption certificate must include all the following: the date it was prepared, the purchaser's name and address, the seller's name and address, the identification number on the purchaser's certificate of authority. Some exemption certificates don't require this, or may require another identifying number. see the certificate's instructions. The purchaser's signature, or an authorized representative's signature, and any other information required by that particular certificate. You must give the exemption certificate to the seller within 90 days after the date of the purchase. Otherwise, both you and the seller could be held liable for the sales tax. Sellers have the right to refuse your exemption certificate, even if it is correct and properly completed. A seller that refuses your certificate must charge you sales tax. You may apply for a refund of the sales tax using Form -11 Australian dollars, application for credit or refund of sales or use tax. For more information, see Tax Bulletins How to Apply for a Refund of Sales and Use Tax, TBST 350, and Sales Tax Credits, TBST 810. For a list of general sales tax exemption certificates, see the chart at the end of this bulletin. Other certificates are listed in Tax Bulletin Quick Reference Guide for Taxable and Exempt Property and Services, TBST 740. Blanket certificates. If you routinely make similar purchases from a seller, you may prefer to use a blanket certificate. This allows you to give your seller one exemption certificate to cover all similar purchases, rather than a separate certificate for each purchase. This option is available for many types of exemption certificates. For example, suppose you are a wholesaler of plumbing supplies and you plan to make multiple purchases of copper tubing and fittings from a manufacturer and then resell those items to plumbing supply shops and hardware stores. Rather than give the manufacturer a separate exemption certificate each time you make a purchase, you may give the manufacturer one blanket certificate to cover all your similar purchases. When using an exemption certificate as a blanket certificate, mark an X in the blanket certificate box, rather than in the single purchase certificate box. If the certificate does not have these boxes, you may not use it as a blanket certificate. If your address, identification number, or any other information on the blanket certificate changes, you must give your seller an updated blanket certificate. Your seller has the right to ask you for an updated blanket certificate at any time. Otherwise, the blanket certificate remains in effect as long as you are making exempt purchases from your seller. Misuse of exemption certificates. If you willfully or knowingly issue a false or fraudulent exemption certificate, you may be subject to penalties, fines, or a jail sentence. For more information about these penalties, see Tax Bulletin Sales and Use Tax Penalties, TBST 805. What a seller needs to know. As long as the purchaser gives you the appropriate certificate, properly completed, within 90 days of the date of the purchase, you do not have to charge the purchaser sales tax. You must accept the certificate in good faith, which simply means that you had no prior knowledge that the certificate was false or fraudulent. You must exercise ordinary care when accepting a certificate. You could be held liable for the sales tax you didn't collect if you knew that the purchase was not for an exempt purpose, or you knew that the certificate was false or fraudulent. You have the right to refuse to accept an exemption certificate, even if it is correct and properly completed. However, if you refuse a certificate, you must charge the purchaser sales tax. You must attach the exemption certificate to the record of the purchase or have some other method of associating the exemption certificate with a particular sale. You must keep the exemption certificate for at least 3 years from the due date of the sales tax return on which the last sale using the exemption certificate was reported. For more information, see Tax Bulletin Record-Keeping Requirements for Sales Tax Vendors, TBST 770. General Sales Tax Exemption Certificates. Please note that this chart provides a brief description of the various exemption documents. Additional requirements may apply. See the individual forms and instructions for details.
All right. So if we take a look here, they have a list of all of the available certificates. I'm not going to go through each one per se, but we'll just kind of skim through. If I see anything good, we'll talk about it. But resale ST 120 resale certificate, yes, unless an out-of-state business. Purpose, property or services to be resold by the purchaser. Contractor exemption, exempt use For property, exempt certificate on tractor, trailer, semis, omnibus, purchasing of promotional materials. Look, if you want to even just buy lots of promotional materials, exemption. Why are you guys not using any of these? This one must be new. Internet data centers, theatrical productions, capital improvement for construction for contractors, commercial horse boarding, racehorse, hearing and service dogs, energy purchases for residential use, direct payment permits, exempt organization, exempt purchase certificate. This is probably the one that I would get right here, the ST 119.1. Purchases by organizations with an exempt organization certificate. Okay, this one's available only by calling this number. So look, so e even amongst within these things, they still have special things to try to keep you from doing it. Hotel, motel, hotel rooms, New York State governmental purchase order, federal purchase order. So this would probably be the one that most of us would use. And it's kind of funny because look, they don't even have the application online for you to download it right here. See how they try to hide these things? No link, no hyperlink to get the file. So you have to get an exempt organization certificate, probably from the IRS or whoever. Contact them via this number in order to get this exemption as a exempt organization. Once again, I'm telling you, your remedies, your rights, your freedoms are all out there. They don't want you to know about them. They don't want you to get them. You were thinking, I have to be a church. I have to have this big building. I have to have this big business association. I have to have this whatever, whatever. It has to be just that. They can't tell you that your house, and I make no changes here, is not a church. They can't say, well, it doesn't look like a church. The fuck does a church look like? You have your idea of what a church looks like. You have your idea of what an unincorporated association looks like. This is my unincorporated association. This is my government. This is my nation. This is my tribe. I'm just telling you, it's out there if you want it. If you guys are watching my videos, there's no reason why you guys shouldn't all be making money. And if you're not going to use these things like many other people who've become my students or whatever else who are making money and you're not, okay, then I don't know why you're really here, but that's up to you. I'm glad you are. Most everybody almost is welcome here. But if you're not going to be using any of these things as business ideas, passive or aggressive, part-time, whatever, then you should at least be doing things to lower, reduce, or minimize your tax obligations, or getting other benefits, or rights, or discounts, grants, and whatever else. And if you need those things, I do have videos on how to search for those. I do have videos on what sites to go for those. You can also go to blacksite32.com and look up resources and find how to, and other government organizations on how to get food if you need food, rent assistance, anything to help take the edge off of what you're already doing will help you. I get hundreds of emails a day, thousands upon thousands a month of people thanking me for learning these things and using them. Within the course of the time of me creating this channel and giving you guys this information, people have become multimillionaires using my information or this information that I took the time to learn and put out there for those people. I'm not saying everybody's going to be rich overnight. Some people aren't even trying to be rich. Hell, I'm not even really trying to be rich. But I do enjoy having a more so comfortable life. And if that's what you want, stay tuned to this Bat channel. Oh, sorry. Bad Wolf channel. Hit that bell and like and subscribe on the way out. All the normal things will be populating about now. I just want to thank you for your time because you guys could have watched anybody's videos, but you watched mine. So sprinkle, sprinkle a little fairy dust on you, and I hope all of your wishes and dreams come true. If you're a good person, a good heart, let no enemy and their weapon formed against you prosper. I believe in you. Take care of yourselves, and I will talk to you next time because it is your foreign national, born natural here in the United States of America, patriot, leader of Levitica, private judge, attorney in fact, and I appreciate and see you. Take care. May you be blessed, and the Elohim and angels watch over you. I'll talk to you later.